Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who have joined us this morning, you will recognize my face. My name is Ilko Kruisinga. I work with the Smart City Marketplace. I'm actually one of the matchmakers, and the other matchmaker will be presenting during this session today for the next 45 minutes. I do want to remind you for the opportunity that is provided to you to meet each other. I can see we have already 48 one-to-one meetings planned, and it's also very encouraging to see that we have 25 people who do want to submit their project proposal for matching with our investor network. So do check out our facilities there. We're there to help you and to help shape and develop your project such that it's mature enough to be matched with the requirements of our investor network. Now, talking about investors and investment, this session will be particularly around the European City Facility, who do offer support to those who are developing a bankable project proposal. And we also have a presentation from ourselves, basically, from the matchmaking team, discussing the project maturity levels and how they might interface with the requirements that the European City Facility has. Now, before we start, I do want to point you to what's on the slide right now. There's an opportunity to ask questions using a tool that's called Slido. Very simple, it's just a web page. Type in your question there. We can see the questions, and I will try to route them to the two presenters. For any other issues and questions you might have, do get in touch with the team and meet us in a specific area that we have set up for you in Microsoft Teams. Just follow the links below that are available on the page that you're looking at. Now, without further ado, I want to hand over to my colleagues. I think we have first, we want to talk about the European City Facility. We have Tatjana Veet presenting from that project and facility. And we also have George Rodriguez de Almeida, my colleague matchmaker. Over to you guys.
Hello everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Elko. Actually, it will be me talking first, and then Tatjana will present the EUCF facility. So welcome. I will make a brief presentation about what we do at the marketplace and how we support projects to get to a stage where they are bankable, where they can meet the investors and meet the investment. But first, I would like to talk to you about what is the marketplace. So the marketplace is a one-stop shop where you can find all the leading actors at the smart city space, including cities, industries, SMEs, investors, research. All those actors are there together. And what we do. So basically, in a nutshell, what we try to do is to give the opportunity to the projects to grow and go to the market. And how we do it through three different stages. First, explore, so we showcase projects that are available, best practice, experience, and we provide a lot of data. Then we have the shape phase. On the shape, we support projects in their process of becoming more bankable. So we do events such as this one that we are having now, this session, where we help projects, or we help to let project developers know where they can find tools to shape their projects. And then we have the deal meetings. And the deal part of our process with the deal meetings is where we do the matchmaking, where we match projects with investors. In the morning, we had one session with 3 of our investors from the investor network. That is a good example of the types of investments, the investors that we have there. We have open calls for projects. As Elko mentioned, during this event, you can also, using the B2Match facility, submit the details of your project we will get that information, and then we will start working with you to support you on that process. So basically providing some guidance how to create these bankable projects. And for that, we have developed a strategy that we rank all the projects according to their maturity in a framework that we call the project maturity level. And this maturity level goes from 1, where we just have a potential project that has been identified, to 6, where we have a project that is ready for the investment offer and tendering process. You will see that the EUCT facility, what it does, it's exactly this approach with another name and probably other figures there. But what they do is support ideas from cities to become projects that are bankable in a project concept that has to be delivered at the end. So we do exactly the same, or more or less the same, but because we do not provide the technical assistance as the EUCT facility provides, but what we do is also trying to help projects to find investors, and for that we have this intake form that is somehow linked with the one that will be shown afterwards by the EUCT facility. There are some similarities, so we ask the information, basic information about the project. We try to help to build this concept note or this concept intake with the project developer, and then when we think that it's ready, we match them with the investors, and the investors, if they are interested in this project, they will schedule a meeting, or we will schedule a meeting between the two entities, and that's kick the match and kick the investment in the project. As regards to our investor network, we have 14 members. We had today the confirmation of EEF, that was one of the speakers in the morning. So all of these investors, they cover different types of technologies, different types of investments, starting at ticket levels completely different. Some are around €1 million, other are in €500,000. So we have different types of investors, and this network is growing. And basically what we do, just to sum up things, we support cities in their development of the concept node, and then we link them to one of these investors. But as I mentioned, we also do these types of deal meetings through the event, and also other events to support the project developers in their process. And I have here 2 examples of things that we do. For instance, on the 18th of June, so right after the end of this matchmaking event, we will have a webinar that focuses on public procurement. So it's basically on the models, funding and procurement process for smart cities, with real experience, and 3 different approaches from cities. Also on the 14th of June, we will have an event all around investment and with investors. So we will invite you, you will get the presentations at the end of the day. We invite you to click on the links to register and to follow up these types of webinars that we are delivering that will help you shape your project in order to make them more bankable. So this was my short presentation. I think that what you want to hear is the presentation from Tatiana. So Tatiana, the floor is yours, and welcome.
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you very much for this kind introduction. And indeed, I will explain you a little bit now about the European City Facility, which has been designed by cities for cities in order to support local investments in sustainable energy. So here you can see the agenda. I will start with a short introduction on what the city facility actually is. And then I will talk you through the EU City Facilities journey, so how the cities will benefit from this initiative. And finally, I will explain you about what we consider as an investment concept within the frame of this initiative. And in the end, hopefully you will have some time to ask your questions via Slido. So the European City Facility is an EU initiative that has been set up under the Horizon 2020 framework program for research and innovation of the European Union. And it will provide tailor-made, rapid and simplified financial support, so grants of 60,000 euros and capacity building services to municipalities and local authorities across the EU member states and the UK that will enable them then to develop sound investment concepts and mobilize finance in the field of sustainable energy. And this includes, of course, also energy efficiency. So our consortium consists out of two bits. First bit is the networking bit. So the whole initiative is led by Energy Cities, the EU City Networks and Energy Transition. So where I'm working at is Climate Alliance. We're also a European city network. We are leading on the communication work package and the matchmaking site. So really, when it comes to bringing the groups of local authorities with their investment concepts to the financial institutions and the investors. And this is also why this sort of matchmaking here that you're organizing, guys, is so important for us. Also on this bit, we have FEDEREN, which is the European Federation of Agencies and Regions for Energy and the Environment, and they're in charge of coordinating the country experts. And this is also one of the main characteristics of the initiative. So we have appointed to each member state one country experts that will support the municipalities in their language and also within their context, but more on this later. On the operational side, we're working together with Adelphi, who are responsible for the planning and monitoring. They're a think tank and a public policy consultancy on climate, environment, and development based in Berlin. And Envirus, who are in charge of the operational activities as a consulting company providing assistance in the field of energy, environment, and business from the Czech Republic. So the initiative has been officially launched in February this year at the Covenant of Mayors Investment Forum. And its first call for application has been launched on May 25th this year and will run until the 2nd of October. So everything that I will be talking about here, you can also find the information on the website under www.eucityfacility.eu. You can follow us on Twitter at EUCityFacility with the hashtag EUCF. So now I'd like to give you a bit of a European context, so to understand where this initiative derives from. And I'd like to provide you with two key facts. So first of all, according to the European Commission's estimation, there is an annual need to mobilize between 150 and 200 billion euros per year to invest in energy and climate in order to comply with the 2030 energy and climate goals. So, and secondly, we know that public money, and when speaking about public money, I'm referring to the multi-annual financial framework, won't suffice. So there is a great, if not to say an urgency, really a great need to mobilize private investments. So having this in mind, we also know, I would like to go to the next slide. Yeah, no. Yeah, we also know that cities are the driver of the energy transition. So they're responsible for 70% of the CO2 emissions. And we know that these that energy consumption is the largest contributor to this carbon dioxide. But we also know that cities have a huge potential to drive large investment programs, to build pipelines of investment projects, and to mobilize significant amount of finance, and also, of course, to aggregate smaller projects into sizable packages. So cities are indeed a real actor of the economy and on the market. So, of course, there are already some very relevant financial instruments in place to mobilize the private finance that is so urgently needed. However, those instruments are mainly targeting larger cities. So the instruments that we have in place today are much easier to be used and accessed by larger cities. And this is quite unfortunate, of course, because the majority of European cities is small and medium-sized. So now with this facility, we want, or we aim at unlocking this local potential and removing the barriers that you can see on the right side of the slide that cities are facing when it comes to sustainable energy investments. And yeah, they are related to the implementation of actions that the cities have identified in their climate and energy action plans and plans of similar ambitions. So yeah, cities have limited resources and capacity since they are very busy with their daily management. It is really difficult for them to put in place teams, and to go beyond the daily business and to think about project finance really. Of course, they also have quite conservative approaches to project finance. So in a Covenant of Mayors survey from 2016, we learned that a majority of the cities that are planning to finance their projects that have been identified in their climate and energy action plans by 2030, and they're planning to finance these actions through their own municipal budget or through grants. So this is not very innovative. And this is also due to a lack of experience the cities have in developing investment packages and in investing in project preparation, really. So with the European City Facility, we really aim at supporting those small or particularly small and medium-sized cities to overcome these barriers. And those of you who have attended the opening panel this morning know that leveraging on the private sector investment is a real challenge. So it takes a lot of confidence, and hence we need to really move forward here and make the private sector investments happen. So this leads me to my next slide, which is the aims and objective of the facility. So again, with the facility, we aim at providing financial and technical support to municipalities, local authorities, and their groupings. Indeed, we really encourage the grouping. So to accelerate the implementation of their sustainable climate and energy action plan. And what's new, maybe also a bit the vision of the initiative, is that we want cities to have a say, like a real say on how this support can be used so that it really meets their needs and really helps them to overcome the barriers that I've just mentioned. And we would like to encourage cities also to be as bold as possible in addressing the fundamental changes that are needed to accelerate the energy transition. And how do we ensure this? So we have put in place some decentral and transparent governance processes. So the city facility is governed by the strategic board, which also consists out of cities and city officials. It's operated by the EUCF team, so the consortium that I've mentioned before, and it is advised by the investment advisors. So all these bodies have clearly assigned responsibility that guarantee then a strategic steering of the initiative. And through this, we assure that cities have a say on how the financial support will best meet their needs. Moreover, and I've already mentioned those country experts that we have appointed for each EU member state and the UK, they will act as a sort of prolonged arm of us, the EUCF team, to really support the EUCF applicants and beneficiaries at the local level in their language. So in numbers, we are planning to build the capacity of more than 400 municipal staff, and also to reach out via the Covenant of Mayors to target more than 10,000 cities to encourage replication and facilitate the access to private and EU finance advisory services. So on my next slide, you can see the EUCF journey. So this is really how the cities will receive support within the initiative. So at the bottom, you can see the application phase, which is really a fast track process consisting out of 2 steps: an online eligibility check, which they can do directly on the website, and then a full application phase. So who is eligible? All municipalities and local authorities, as well as groupings located in the European Union and the UK, are able to apply. They need to have a politically approved CEAP, SECAP, or a plan of similar ambition, and they need to prove their political commitment to develop the investment concept by a mayor or another political representative. And finally, they need to commit to the monitoring period of 2 years. And after this simple automatic online check, so the eligibility check, they will be redirected to the EUCF help desk if unsuccessful, and if successful, they will move forward to the full application, which you can find on the website. So on the right side, you see that after this application phase, they will receive the 60K grant, which is only partly true because they actually receive only 70% of it to really then develop the investment concept. And here the facility provides this crucial support, so technical support. We will organize capacity building workshops and also provide standard tools and documents that you can find on the website. So within these 12 months, they have the time to develop their investment concepts, which then hopefully will be approved. And after the validation of this investment concept, they receive the second payment of the grant, which is 30%, to then implement the investment concepts within another 24 months. So you can see that the development of the investment concept is really halfway through, let's say, and then it is about really the implementation. So you might have guessed that the product or this investment concept, it's not really an investor-ready document yet, but to get to the full implementation of the investment concept, so to the actual funds that will then pay the actual infrastructure, the EUCF team needs to function sort of as a financial intermediary, let's say, to create a linkage between the facility and other different larger scale investment funds such as ELENA, PDA, and also other project preparatory facilities. So then this intermediary step aims at getting the groups of local authorities that will come through this city facility to the actual starting of the investment, so towards then the full implementation of the investment concepts. So you might have seen now that it's really this whole phase of from the SECAP, so our members and the cities across the EU have been super busy with developing their sustainable energy and climate action plans throughout the last years. And now we need to move them or to bridge them really towards the implementation of the actions that they have identified in these plans. And yeah, let's say in a perfect world, we are then at a final stage that you can see at the very top, where the end investors will be able to provide sort of standardized products, so to say ready to go templates as we know them from street lighting, or let's say when we look at street lighting, we are nearly there, where the circumstances are generally much more entrepreneurial and less risk averse. So here, the actual starting of the investments goes beyond this, how it is today in the building sector still. Each building represents a project in itself. And we are still at the stage where each building is a project in itself. So we still finance each building by itself, project financing. But we need to move really towards aggregated loans as we know them from the retail sector, for example, with our phone contracts. So this is really the goal, let's say. Okay, enough about the EUCF journey. Now, what is an investment concept? So for us, this investment concept is really a document which translates an investment project idea into financial language in order to mobilize then financing for its realization. So they can use, so the EUCF beneficiaries can really use the money they receive through the city facility to do or conduct their feasibility studies, the market barrier analysis, financial analysis, stakeholder analysis, and so on and so forth. So these missing bits that they are missing in order to finally produce this investment concept. And the purpose of the investment concept, of course, is to provide investors and financial institutions with the information necessary to assess an investment project in a simple and fast manner. And then, the overarching purpose is to transform the climate and energy plans into sound investment packages and thus facilitate the access to funding for municipalities and local authorities across the EU. So I've included 2 slides here in this presentation. I do not want to go into detail here, but I've heard that you will receive the presentations afterwards. So the structure here on these slides, you can see the structure of an investment concept that we've outlined. That includes this teaser, so the summary of the planned investment, and the structure then is the description of the investment project, the promoters and the local stakeholders, the legal analysis, economic and financial analysis, and then really the investment roadmaps. The annexes that you can see here, you can also download them from our website. So here also, again, I do not want to go into too much detail here because we are slowly running out of time. So this information should be provided in an investment concept. But again, this is information that you can also access via our website. Okay, then for those of you who are interested in the number of calls and the following timeline, let's say we will have 4 calls throughout the next 3 years. One, as I already said, has been launched on the 25th of May and will run until the 2nd of October. Then we will have another one in spring 21, another one in autumn 21, and then the last one in spring 2022. Yeah, finally, so you know how the money will be distributed. So we have distributed, let's say, the EU into 3 different main regions, with the aim again to aggregate projects that are similar in some regions in terms of like local circumstances and technologies and so on and so forth. And of course, we've taken into consideration the population size and the Berlin formula, and this is also what's being used by the European Commission to allocate the cohesion funds. So for more information on how the cities will receive support in which region for which call, you can also have a look on our website under application and regional calls. We go more into detail here. Okay, so that was my part. I don't know if we have any questions from the floor. Thinking no.
Actually, we do have 2 questions. It's Ilko here. The first question actually is related to the size of the city and what sort of support you might offer to smaller cities. Say, for instance, cities smaller than 500,000 inhabitants. What difference does it make in terms of the size of the city?
So the size of the city does not really matter. They can apply with any size, but of course, in the application or in the evaluation of the application, we favor those that have a large impact. So large impacts in terms of energy savings, CO2 emission savings, and investment size. So this is why we really encourage smaller cities to group together with their peers, not only to bundle the resources, but then also to attract a bigger effect and impact.
All right, thank you, Tasha. And there's another question, probably more related to the interface, if you like, between the European City Facility and the city market, the smart city marketplace, because we're mentioning there's a help desk. How does that interface to the various services that George was speaking about? Is there any thinking around that, or to be developed?
So we have not really gone into detail here. I mean, we're really at the beginning of this initiative, but we will try and create linkages and synergies where possible, of course. And again, when it comes for us to then bring our groups of local authorities to bridge them to the investors, this is really one of the main things. But so far, not any deeper thoughts from my side.
I can reply on that also. Yeah, but this is the kind of kicking point. So we started with this small event to promote the initiative, because we do see that there are several synergies between what you are doing, because basically you are giving this grant and this grant that comes with some technical assistance also, and you give them to the cities in order for them to prepare a bankable project. And that's exactly what we are trying to do. We do not have the facility or the grant and such resource for the technical assistance. So we are developing tools that are self-assessment tools, basically, so that cities can use those tools and improve their projects without us being so much involved. But I would say that we had an image of what we try to do, that is a funnel. So we are trying to bring all the projects through the funnel until a deal. And the deal is that someone financed this project, probably using innovative financing schemes or others, or even other types of schemes, but to finance those projects, to put them in the market. And especially today, given all the crisis and all the problems that came up with this COVID, that changes our lives, and we see that we are all working from home or doing what we can to go to the office. And this changed a lot of things, and even the cities had to change their perspective of investment, so they have to focus on things that they were not expecting 4 months ago, and now they have to refocus. And so that makes a lot of sense to use external money for these types of projects, because there are possibilities to do it without using internal budget. As you mentioned, Tatiana, a lot of cities will invest for their own budget to develop their CCAPs or the plans that they have under Covenant of Mayors. And maybe they could use other resources with our help, with your help, with other facilities that are also in the market. And with that, they can bring off-balance solutions, so meaning that they would not invest directly, but using other schemes, and through that they could use their own resources and focus now on fighting the crisis. So we see a lot of synergies between both of the projects, but as Tatiana said, we have not defined a clear roadmap, although we have a kind of principle of agreement, I would say.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Tatiana. So I don't see any further questions through the Slido. Is there any sort of closing remarks that you want to make, and you want to point people to specific items, Tatiana, George? No, Tatiana, you have pointed to the web facility that you have put in place, the call that's open until, I think you said October 2nd. George, you've been talking about the project maturity levels. So what can people expect in the next phase?
Yeah, I can give you as regards to the marketplace. So what we are trying to do. So we will have some events right after this one. For instance, we will have one event around public procurement. This event is a 3-day event also. So tomorrow we will talk about mobility. Then on the next day we will be talking on ICT. Then we have this event, this webinar with ECLAY around public procurement and business models, so how cities can develop their projects. We aim to have another event with investors, and then I would say to go a little bit further than just these kinds of events where we just talk, to put a little bit more interaction. We have designed a masterclass. We will open the first edition of that masterclass very, very soon. And in this masterclass, what we will try to do is to help the attendees going from scratch, from a draft of a plan, until something that could be a smart city action plan for their own city. So we will try to help them, or with a specific, more tailored specific project, or a general overview, but helping them. So that's a little bit putting more the hands on the job. And continuously we have these open calls for the projects that wants to submit their project concept note. Just go to our website and you have there the link. You submit your project concept note, and after that we will try to match you with an investor that is in our network. And by the way, this investor network is growing every day. So if we have some investor attending this webinar, do register. We will welcome you there.
Thank you, George. Tatjana, anything that's coming up from your side that we should be aware of?
Yeah, it's really now we're in the phase of really still making this facility or promoting the facility and making it known amongst all the municipalities across the EU. And I think specifically in the current situation, under the current circumstances, it can be really helpful for many municipalities that need really to save their own resources for other things. And it's here where the EUCF can step in and really leverage on the potential that is really hidden in these SEAPs and SECAPs, and really lift the cities to act. So right now we are having each week, I think, at least 3 webinars in a different EU language where the country experts, and also we work together with the national networks across the EU member states of local authorities, or networks of local authorities, that are organizing these webinars and explaining how cities can, what the facility is and how cities can apply. So I'd really encourage you to have a look on our events on the website also. And then, after this first call, we will see really how it went, where cities faced issues, struggles, where the main problems were. And then we will be creating communities of practice. I don't know if you've seen it, but on the image that I showed in my presentation, which will then hopefully also work on specific technologies, on really specific regional and contextual issues to really get this project pipelines going. Yeah.
Thank you, Tatjana. Excellent. Thank you, George. So I'll do a final check on whether there are any further questions. Just refresh the screen here. I don't see any further questions, so we're still a bit ahead of time. It's not a big deal, but we will reconvene for this day at 4:30 with some reflections from Georg Ruben. We will have heard this morning when he kicked off the Energy Day today. In the meantime, I wish you the best of luck with the European City Facility, and George as well as my colleague also with the matchmaking activities. Do enjoy your one-to-one meetings, and if you don't have set them up yet, do so. It's not too late. And do submit your project proposals as well, because we're really interested, and investors are also looking forward to good quality inputs from cities across Europe. So get in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.